Welcome everyone, this is Jazmunch here. We're going to be looking at another tutorial video for Beyond All Reason. Today we're going to be looking at bot composition and just kind of doing a variety of tests to see which bots for Armada will be the most effective bots and maybe change what you view as the best and just look at them statistically and the pluses and negatives of each one so that you can decide how you want to use them in each game. Now, first off, we're going to be looking at the mace and the Centurion. The Centurion is almost twice as expensive as a mace. The mace costs 130 metal with 1000 energy, whereas the Centurion costs 270 metal at 300 energy. So the Centurion is a significant increase in cost, but it does bring a powerful punch with it as well. Its health is 1500 and the mace's health is only 900, so a much weaker bot. Not quite twice as weak, but it is very close. Okay, now one thing interesting about the mace is it fires plasma bullets, okay? And it doesn't really fire very rapidly. You can see every plasma shot takes time to travel, and that is one of the negatives of plasma shots, is their time to travel is often rather slow, and it can miss its target. Looking at the DPS of a mace, it is surprisingly low. It's only 60. Its range is 380, so it is a lot of a larger range than other bots, even beating the Centurion, which has 330. So it is a 50 range larger, and its view range is also larger as well, being 380, whereas the Centurion's view range is 350. So in range, it does beat the Centurion. In health, it does not. In firepower, it does not. The Centurion's firepower is anywhere from 91 damage per second to 183 damage per second. Now, I believe this variation in damage is due to how long the Centurion is firing. So in sustained combat, it will get up to 180 damage per second. Whereas in like just peeking and shooting, like if a unit peeks in and then falls back, it will maybe do 90 damage on its first shot. But as it keeps shooting, it gets a larger, like I'm assuming it's like the weapon heats up and does more damage over time. I'm not 100% sure. I need to still look into that, but that's a theory I have. So, one Centurion can do it can do 3 times as much damage as a mace can. Okay. The limiting factor is definitely its range and line of sight is a little bit smaller, but that's about it. Now, one thing that really surprised me is the pawn. The pawn has a damage of 90, which is more than a mace, which really surprised me. Okay, 90 damage per second versus 60 damage per second. It's quite significant. Now, obviously, the pawn only has 300 health, so it will die very rapidly. But I never realized the significant damage a pawn does up close. They are quite a powerful unit if you can get them close enough. So that just kind of reinforced the fact that as a bot player, you are going to want to integrate pawns into your composition and try to use them as a raiding unit while your other guys are taking the hits. Okay? But so far my conclusion is that maces are complete garbage. Do not ever use them. They are trash, okay? That's my conclusion. You guys might have a different feeling about that, but just by looking at the stats, I don't see a need to use them. Centurions get a big old check mark for me. Okay, reason being is their laser fire is instantaneous. Okay, those of you who have used laser weapons in the past, you've seen the fact that they almost always hit their target. With a mace, I tried them the other day, and I was winning with them, but largely because I had overwhelming numbers. But that bullet speed is just too slow. Even a tank can outrun the bullet speed of a mace. So Centurions, I think, are just really the best thing to use if you're going to be going bots as your like tanky unit, frontline unit. Maces, not so much. I have trouble seeing their use, and they just don't seem to be worth the cost to me compared to what's available in the Centurion. Okay, also pawns. Now these guys, I believe, are something I need to integrate more into my actual usage. Lately, I have been just keeping them in my like mid game and early game, and not really using them for like longer in the early game. I basically stop using them after I get a couple Centurions out. But what I think would be good to do is have my Centurion front wall here, and then have my pawns in the back. And as these guys are taking engagements up front, then moving my pawns forward after the attacks have started to do some higher damage per second, and even distract the shots from my front line, because these guys have the potential of creating a 2x bonus on damage. Okay, if I can get these guys behind the enemy line here, so we'll say that this is the enemy line and they have like tanks and stuff. If I can get them behind the enemy line and they are all shooting towards the enemy line, and my front guys here are also shooting the enemy line, then we have 2x the damage available. The difficulty there will just be to get these guys in that position. Another thing that could be useful is while these guys are engaging, you could even take them up around and try to pass their front line to do a raid and take out some of their economy. That's another very useful thing. I think the pawns need to be used more besides just early game. Rocket bots. We all have heard the power of the rocket bot, but none of us have looked at their damage per second. It is less than a pawn, which is very surprising. And they cost more than a pawn. They cost 3x as much as a pawn almost. And their damage per second is complete trash. The only benefit I see to a rocket bot is the fact that it can shoot a longer range. That's it. It does have the burst fire, which is nice. So like, rocket bots are meant to be like one of those things where you pop forward, you shoot your payload, and you run back, right? That's kind of how they're meant to be used. And I would definitely recommend only using them that way, because that will give you your highest amount of damage you can without potentially losing them. I still believe you should build a decent amount, like just have 10 available to take out static defenses. But to say that you should make them a huge part of your army, I think is not really that smart, compared to the fact that a Centurion can do almost, I would say, 4 times the damage. The Centurion's able to do 4 times the damage and is much tankier. And its shots will always hit, versus rocket bots, the shots, I mean, you guys have seen how it works. Those 3 rockets take quite a while to land and they don't hit. So I'm sure this is probably controversial, but after looking at the stats, I think I'm going to comprise my army mostly of Centurions and pawns from now on, and have a couple of these guys as just backup for taking out turrets. I just don't see any reason to use these, and I don't see any reason to build lots of these. They just are I don't see them being that effective. So you guys can let me know what you think down in the comments, but for me, I'm gonna call that my new strategy. So definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with me. And if you have any other tips that you want to be posted on our channel, go ahead and write those down in the comments as well. Also, if you want to see any live streaming that we do, I am live on Twitch. Eventually, we'll probably be going live on YouTube as well, but for now, I only have access to Twitch. So, you can find that in the description as well. And then also, if you don't know how to download this game, that is also in the description. And if you got value out of these videos, like and subscribe. It's free, it helps the channel tremendously, and we will see you guys in the next one.